Ladies and gentlemen, we are live from the Isle of Man in the UK. This is John and Mike's MMA Corner.
I am joined now with Chuck Mindenhall. He is the man with the hat, even though you can't see it right now. I'm sure you're wearing a lovely hat. Thank you, firstly, Chuck, for talking with us. And let's say you work with SB Nation, MMA fighting, you do lots of writing, let's put it this way. You're a man of many words. And do you want to put out, is that a good way to put what you do? You're a journalist, MMA journalist. Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah, you know something, man. I'm always. All these people call themselves journalists. I'm a little bit more of the writer ilk. I consider myself a writer, and I guess I fall into the category as a columnist. But ultimately, it all falls under the umbrella of journalism. So whatever you want to call me, man, I fall under all of those things. And
you're also one of the linchpins in the MMA Beat, which many people will know you from. And I've got you to come and talk, and we're just going to not talk about fights that are coming up, because there's always lots of fights going on, but let's talk about Rampage Jackson. Let's start with that, because it came out, for me, I think it came out of nowhere. No one was talking about it for a long time, and then all of a sudden it gets announced that he's back at Bellator to kind of commit to his contract that he had originally signed with. I think this for Bellator, it's great for Bellator personally.
Yeah, this is one of those things that was sort of a black eye a little bit under the Scott Coker era. He kind of comes in, and one of the pieces they lost as he was kind of gaining steam was, it seemed to be Quentin Rampage Jackson, who now it seems like he cameoed at UFC 186 in Montreal. You know what I mean? It's like one of these weird scenarios where it was kind of like a little reprieve to make another cameo in the UFC. But I think ultimately he had a lot of bad blood for all the contractual things that he thought had gone wrong, and it's an interesting sort of come back to where we all started for him to go back to Bellator. So good for them, especially with the amount of signings that they've been doing of late. I feel like he sort of actually means something to their roster right this minute. Yeah,
I was thinking as well, and also the fact that they've got that link with Rizin, and there's straight away rumours come about Rampage and Fedor. And the thing is, Rampage can definitely fight at heavyweight, especially not in the UFC. When you go with Bellator, their heavyweight division, they are adding to it. But with Rampage, you could stick him on Rizin, and you know that he could fight at heavyweight. It's not, the heavyweight division isn't stacked, let's say.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one thing: he's not going to turn away a trip to Japan.
No,
the guy loves Japan. So I do feel like they can use him in a variety of ways, and it's kind of having that alliance, especially with guys like Fedor, because how fun would that fight be? I feel like Fedor Emelianenko, he's coming back, and he fought this other cat that nobody had heard of. Yeah. It was really not much of a dramatic thing. It was more really centrally specific for just Fedor fans and for Japan, the live audience. Yes. I thought it just didn't translate well. I don't know how it is for you guys. It didn't translate that big over here in the States. So I feel like they put a guy like Rampage Jackson against Fedor. All of a sudden, you've got something. That's a good money fight for those guys.
Yeah, and with Vanderlei's announcement of the suspension, getting the 3 years, he could go. He could go to Japan though and compete, and that's another fight there as well. So straight away, you're starting to get Vanderlei, Rampage, Fedor. It starts to get a bit more interesting now, the potential matchups, and I like it though. I get quite excited about it because it's not just all about the UFC. It's these other promotions are starting to, flourish a little bit.
Yeah, it's like Pride Resurrected, right? I mean, all these guys, all these pieces back. But yeah, man, and it's kind of fun. What Bellator's got kind of going on in a couple of separate ways is, they're dusting off some of these guys who are, the legends of the sport, some of the earlier pioneers. Like, for instance, this weekend you've got the Shamrock fight. Now, that's more of a novelty fight. I don't know, you know what I mean? It's just more of the shtick, and kind of like a true nostalgic fight, almost a circus event, I think, when it comes down to that fight. But when you talk about guys like, Rampage, who's, he's won 4 fights in a row. He did win against Maldonado in his UFC cameo that happened what was it, back in April, so it's almost been a year ago. But he won that one as well. I feel like he's in a good place. You got Fedor, because of the resurrection of all the sort of heavyweights in the UFC, I feel like that favors him, at least perceptionally. Like, hey, man, here's another guy who could make another run. You know what I mean? Like, it's not out of the question that they could put some good fights together and they would still have some vital elements to them, or some vitality in terms of these guys have more to offer. And you're absolutely right about Wanderlei Silva. It's going to be very interesting to see, obviously, like, if he does go over there, you know, kind of how it pans out for him. Obviously, he's not going to be able to compete until, I think it's May of 2017 over in the States, and certainly not Nevada. So I feel like that might be an option. Maybe he pops up somewhere like that. But you could mix and match a lot of these guys at this point. I think it'd be fun. And
like you say, Dustin, talk about dusting guys off. Tito Ortiz is the name we've not even thrown in there.
Yeah.
That's another interesting bout. You know, Tito could fight any one of them three guys, and I'll be honest, I'd watch it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's sort of the gimmick right now, right? It was like they're getting these guys together, and I guess even if they're in the twilight, they can either put together old vendettas, you know, make them go at it again, or they can sort of pair up guys who never got the chance. And I mean, the diehards, us kind of guys, and anybody who just recognizes those name brands are going to tune in just to see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. I don't mind them because they are actually they're all in that similar stage of their careers. It's like with Shamrock and Gracie, they are of that same period. It's not like there's a 20-year gap. So I kind of don't mind it. You know, if you said, oh, Ken Shamrock's going to be fighting, I don't know, John Jones, I'd probably want to question it. But the fact that they're going to be around the same age, I don't mind too much. Yes, it is a circus act, but at least it's not going too extreme. You know, they are a similar age, and look,
you're right. That's the whole thing. I think as long as they're sort of pairing them up, and there's a sort of an equality to where they're at in their careers, it makes sense. I mean, you could even look at the UFC's 205-pound division, and you have a lot of relics or guys who are sort of now in that spot of just being name brands, going against name brands. You know, the guys like Dan Henderson, for instance, or maybe Rashad Evans to an extent, Mauricio Shogun, who are those types of names. I mean, they're not none of these guys. Although Rashad may still have something in him for another title run, we'll see. But a lot of these guys, I feel like they're just sort of it's based on their names and putting together fun fights. And I guess you're really looking at the same exact thing when you look at some of these matchups we're talking about.
Exactly. And look, it's a promising prospect outside of the UFC, which is what you need. Competition is good, and it's just good as well. It's good viewing, and I'll look forward to watching it. We'll go on then to new signings. Like I said, Venator in Italy, they've just been clustering a handful of guys: Sokoju, Matt Hamill, Che Mills, and obviously Mayhem Miller. That's some big names if you look at it for a promotion that, like their last card they had Jack Mason and Luke Barnett fight on it, and now all of a sudden they've just got these 4 big names. They're putting a lot of money in. I don't know who's backing them up, but you got to think 4 big names. How are they financially backing this? Hopefully, it's not going to make them go bust. But I look forward to this kind of thing as well, especially in European MMA.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a unique sort of vibe over there, especially with them. I mean, did you guys see the press release they put out for Jason Mayhem Miller and all the kind of flack it got? I mean, that sort of it's sort of other level, like sort of thinking, I guess. When you got a guy who's going to write a press release like that, sort of enabling, I guess, Jason Miller. But the bottom line is, you guys are right. I mean, I feel like if you're doing something like that, very specific to a country, in this case Italy, and you're putting together this fight promotion, why not get some of these guys, you know, like they're getting? I mean, Sokoju has sort of bounced around. He's almost like this global journeyman who's sort of ended up over there. But he's had some big bouts. And I still feel like he's one of those guys that you look at and you know, it's like, wow, you know, he looks like a true fighter, you know, looking at him, and he has the fumes of some good fights under him. And Mayhem Miller obviously was who knows what's going to happen with that guy, but if somebody's willing to give him another shot and actually believes it's healthy for him to be in the cage, go for it. And I guess we'll see how that sort of pans out. But yeah, man, you know, Matt Hamill and guys like that, like obviously they've stood in there with a lot of the greats. Che Mills, I mean, it wasn't that long ago that he was on a co-main event at UFC 145. So good for them to kind of get some of these guys, and maybe I haven't really looked over their roster too carefully. I don't know if it's a lot of local guys as well, or if it's just guys from Europe. But it's a good way to match them with known names and give them names as well.
Yeah, it is a lot of. They have got a local talent there, Italian fighters, and obviously, Matt Hamill. He's the only guy to beat John Jones.
Yeah. That's correct, right?
You know,
he's slamming his head with 6 to 12 foreheads to his elbow.
It's a great way to beat someone. He'll always have that on his record. Well, Matt Hamill was on Twitter literally the other few weeks back saying that he couldn't find a fight. He couldn't get a fight anywhere, and now he's got one matched up against Sugju. I'm glad for him. I'm happy for him. If he still wants to compete, it's a good thing. He hasn't
looked great, but I have to admit, I've always liked him. I've always thought he's a great competitor. And obviously being deaf and all the things he's had to overcome, it's cool. If he wants to keep going and he feels like he's got it in him, and he can't do it in the UFC, I think that sort of theater is perfect for him.
Yes, exactly. I think if he's still got the, that intensity to want to compete, I'm all for it as well. We're going to move. I'm going to move on to. It's going to be a bit of a touchy subject, I suppose, because depending on what Ronda Rousey. Coming out with that statement about how she felt suicidal, and then she wanted to have Travis Brown's babies. I didn't know which one I was more worried about out of the two, but the suicide comment. Obviously, there's the history with her father, and then it makes me worried. I don't think she should be allowed to compete again coming out of a statement like that. But what I worry about is if you're in the UFC, you don't will they look at it like that, or will they just look at Ronda Rousey as a cash cow? She's a money maker. They know when they get her back, they'll make money. That's my opinion. I don't think they should let her go back in.
It's a tricky one, man. This is a weird one because Ronda Rousey saying what was going on in the heat of the moment after that fight is a lot to unpack because, just starting with the basic fact that she's possibly concussed after, taking that blow.
Yeah.
She's realizing it's dawning on her, she gets out of the spotlight, which I'm sure she was trying to put up whatever kind of front she could as she walked away. She gets back there and, a fleeting thought of something drastic, but something that would maybe like in her, in a moment like that, say, well, an immediacy to, solving everything would be this. I mean, it's kind of a crazy, drastic statement, but I suppose it takes on crazier meaning when you've given her sort of where she come from with her father and sort of all that knowledge and, being vocal about it, I guess, enough where people know that story. So I do feel like it's concerning, but what really stands out to me is I really believe that fight really had a huge emotional toll for her when she lost it to begin with. I know a lot of people on Twitter were like, "Oh, well, it's just a loss. It's just a loss." I was like, it wasn't just a loss for her. It was like who she was at the moment going into that fight, who the UFC was presenting her as, how she became a global, almost transcendent icon across, certainly in America. I'm guessing pretty much wherever anybody who follows fighting, she was as big as she was. And I truly believe she was trying to embody all of those things in that, and being that sort of icon, being that sort of special athlete. With Joe Rogan saying things like, this is a once in a lifetime athlete, those types of things. And really, I thought that she was one of those rare examples of being so far ahead of her time that she would do nothing but live up to that hype throughout her career until she walked away. And it's a lot to lose in a sudden thing like that, in a very humiliating way to lose, especially given her attitude towards everything. I think that she had sort of looked at Holly Holm as a foregone conclusion, that it was something that was going to happen, that she was going to take some time off, do some movies, all this stuff, and it just changed the narratives on everything. But, because it maybe never occurred to her that was going to happen, it's not as crazy to think like that a thought like that may dance through your head in that moment of realization. You know what I mean? And I feel like sort of that's what's going on one level. The second level, though, is the fact that she kind of talked about it on an Ellen DeGeneres show, like kind of what she knows is going to travel to everybody's ears.
Yes.
So the fact that she admitted it maybe could be construed as, hey, I'm not 100%, right to, and you'd have to consider that. You'd have to say, like, hey, does she belong in here? Does she have the emotional stability to do this anymore? You know, should she be doing this if it really could be that extreme for her? Especially if she has to fight at Holly Holm again, where I really believe that result could happen again. So I mean, there's a lot going on in that situation. I feel like the UFC is going to have to maybe enter some new space here in how they handle this one, because that's one of their biggest stars, if not their biggest star, and now they have to sort of really gauge a lot of different levels on this.
Yeah, I feel the same way about if the matchup happened again. I think it would probably go Holly's way. I think the Faraz Zahabi breakdown of it was absolutely amazing. I watched the bout, and then when you saw some of the things he pointed out, you kind of sit there and go, I don't see Ronda beating her again, because it looks like Winklejohn and Jackson, they've literally sat there, broke down Ronda, and they know how to stop her. And I just feel like Holly will do it time and time again. And I do think that the UFC should get a psychologist to speak to her, because they should have someone, an independent psychologist, to speak to her, just to make sure her mindset is in the right place, because you can't put her in again. Like you say, if that happens again, it sounds terrible. Do you want that on your mind after if she was to lose again? Would you want to sit there if you're Dana White going, yeah, we need to get someone to make sure they're with her for a long, keeping an eye on her.
Yeah. She's that kind of competitor, and I do feel like it's going to require some special attention. I mean, she's going to have to make some pretty strong assurances. That won't be the case. And maybe, the truth is, because it was like a fleeting moment, and maybe we're running with headlines here, and, who knows, but at the same time, that's a serious enough thing, and I think she's that kind of competitor. And if her whole identity, I mean, basically what she was saying is, hey, my whole identity is this. If I'm not this, then I'm nothing. Mm-hmm. Well, you got to believe she still thinks that's going to be her again. Yeah. And unfortunately, there's a bigger finality the second time through. A lot of people want to they want to believe, they want to think of it from the UFC side. Hey, don't risk Ronda Rousey to another loss to Holly Holm, and then you put her in this purgatory where she can't fight, for a belt until Holly loses again. That's really secondary to the real point, which is, if Ronda Rousey loses that fight, she may be. She might already be shattered. She might be shattered to the point where she'll never be the same fighter again already. But I certainly think that there's a big possibility of that, given her, her psychological makeup and everything, if she loses that second fight. So there's a lot of stakes, a lot of emotional stakes, a lot of sort of dire stakes in a lot of ways, because that fight, it goes just beyond sporting. It goes into some other realm. That's a little more human than that. Yeah,
and I think exactly that's when we got to start thinking as people about, not thinking about money, numbers, viewing figures. That's when we need to be more human when it comes to that. And I don't think there's anything wrong either with Ronda just being honest and just going. And it's not like she's short of £1 or $1 or $2. She can go and sit on a beach and paint her body and go in a magazine, and there you go, and that's her sorted. Then it's not like she hasn't got something outside of the sport now.
100%. And I mean, the reason she's got all that is because she was a great fighter who did all this. And it'll be interesting to see how it plays out for her. It's one of those things that I don't truly think she believes she's an actress. I don't think she thinks that she was meant for Hollywood. I think she's just cashing in on all the the sort of fringe benefits that came from her being great in the octagon, and I'm like, so it'd be interesting to see, can she be contented with just living that life as a competitor? And hopefully she can. I mean, that's the part of the reward for her doing what she's done, and sort of being that gateway for so many other young girls and everything to come into the sport. I feel like that's her reward, and I hope she sees it that way.
Yeah, kind of like Rampage. Randy Couture going off and do the filming afterwards and all this stuff. Go and do it. You've earned your stripes. Now go off and enjoy the benefits of your career, and it's something that you should do. Look, I'm going to touch on something that's a bit random, I know, but like I said to you, UFC Fight Pass, they keep ticking on these kind of promotions that they sign up. They got Brazil, they're touching in Russia, they're touching a lot of regional shows in the States. I love Fight Pass personally. I love it. I've had it for a long time, and I push it quite often to people on the podcast to buy it, and it's worth investing in. For me, it feels like Fight Pass is now, I know it's UFC Fight Pass, but it's almost like it's turned into an MMA channel in itself, and all these purchases, it's like they're taking the market away as well.
Yeah. There's a lot of things going on with Fight Pass. I mean, we kind of touched on this on the MMA Beat that you were mentioning earlier. We've sort of hit on it, and tactically what they might be thinking throughout the beginning. What are they going to do? What kinds of fights are they going to do? It's funny because you see a big fight like what's coming up in London between Anderson Silva and Michael Bisping. You think that could be, easily headlining a Fox card.
Yeah.
It certainly could be headlining a Fox Sports 1 card here in America, and I'm not sure how that translates for all you guys over there, but these are the types of fights that I'm not sure I thought that you'd see these kinds of fights on Fight Pass. I feel like there's a little bit of a migration that way where they're putting some of these bigger fights over there on that platform, and you wonder how much that's sort of rankling Fox executives and things like that. Like, hey, whoa, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? Like, why are you guys doing this? But then again, you're like, this is the UFC sort of protecting itself. They're their own entity ultimately. I mean, they're the reason there is a MMA at this level. So I feel like it's the UFC sort of protecting themselves, building their brand in the best way possible, and that is obviously their one big outlet that they've got rolling now. And I love it. I use it, obviously, as a writer. I use it for a lot of different reasons. I mean, there's so many times you can go back on there and just go through their archives to find old fights and review old fights, kind of look at propensities of guys who are getting ready to fight. I love that aspect of it, but I dig. I kind of think that they're kind of building these cards in a special way now too, where they're starting to take on a certain color, you know what I mean, with what they're looking for into booking these, not just the regional guys now.
Yeah.
Although there's plenty of those, it's not just the regional guys they're stuffing on there and giving them a chance. They're actually being creative in how they put these fight cards together. So far I've been enjoying it, and I think they're getting better. I think they're starting to take on an identity, and I love that everything is housed under one roof. Like you were saying, it's like an MMA channel.
Yeah, and I think that they're also, like you said, they're putting a Bisping and Anderson fight on Fight Pass, because their deal with Fox is coming up, in a couple of years. But the thing is, the negotiations start now. People don't know that, but TV negotiation deals, they don't start literally when the contract's up. They start well before then. And maybe they are protecting themselves by putting on a couple of bigger fights on the Fight Pass, because they might need to, in the meantime, rely on Fight Pass subscription. Because if you look at Netflix is all streaming.
Right.
It's all becoming a streaming kind of lifestyle.
Absolutely.
People, it will be gone will be the days when you use a cable or a box to watch your stuff. It's all going to be streaming, and maybe the UFC are realizing that.
100%. They've always been out in front of certain technological trends, and I mean, this is certainly one of them. This is a big one, obviously. I feel like they really understand where they need to be putting emphasis. I mean, they were way out in front of the social media, kind of using social media way ahead of other sports. I mean, they were just all over social media, and they still are in terms of Twitter and all that stuff. They sort of commandeered it early and made it their own, and I feel like that's you're just seeing it's very savvy stuff what they do. And it's business, and these guys that's what they are first and foremost, and they're going to do what's best for their business. And right now, Fight Pass, they're putting a lot of those eggs in that basket, and for good reason, because like I said, this is their product. This is what they control, and this is what the future is. And I feel like that's sort of, it all goes into their thinking, and I think they're sort of ramping that up and we're definitely seeing it. I think we'll see more big fights this year. They've certainly filled out a good, the guys who are all sort of running it and heading up Fight Pass, I feel like they've got their heads on straight. So I feel like it's all very strategic, and we're going to see this type of fight like Silva and Anderson Silva. We're going to see more of those this year.
And if I'm honest, I look forward to it. Look, Chuck, I know you got a bit of limited time with me, and it's fine. What I'm going to do, sir, is say thank you so much for coming on and giving me some of your time to talk. It's been an absolute pleasure. Before I let you go, can you let everyone at home know how they can follow you on social media and stuff? To look at your articles that you write and the bits that you do? Sure.
I get a lot of hell because I'm not on Facebook, but the best way to find me is just on Twitter, and it's just at Chuck Mindenhall, my name. So, yeah, man, I try to keep it real light and irreverent on there. So if you want to have a funny follow, that's where to find me.
Yeah. Definitely follow. I do, obviously, but look, give him a follow, read his stuff if you don't already, and obviously he does the MMA Beat, which you can watch on YouTube. I believe it goes out on SoundCloud. It probably goes on iPlayer. I don't have Apple, but I'm sure it goes on there as well. You can all find it, ladies and gentlemen. Just put it on Google. It's not rocket science. Google makes stupid people smart nowadays, so just use Google. You know, it helps me as well. Like I said, Chuck.
Every Thursday. Well, almost every Thursday.
Almost. Hang on a minute. Thursday. Yeah, I was going to say, look, you guys have let me down some Thursdays, so don't put it.
I think we're going to fix that in 2016. I think you're going to see it about every Thursday. I think is the goal.
I think what you should have is a TV screen if you actually can't physically get there, and have like a Skype video of you guys up there. I think that's what you should do if you can't physically get to the studio.
It might be coming. I mean, I feel like the show's gotten popular enough, I think, where we could probably get by with those sort of variations. We started doing it on the road a little bit more, so as long as we're able to do those things, I think it'll be weekly.
Oh, it's great. I love it. Honestly, I think, honestly, that it's picking up and everyone else enjoys it. And like I say, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the MMA Beat you're going to do. And again, thanks very much, Chuck, for coming on.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. A lot of fun.